Welcome to Beyond the Medical Algorithm, a podcast by the Philly Wellness Center. Join us on a journey through the too often neglected path to wellness, where we celebrate the human body and all things natural to illuminate new roads to health and happiness. Holistic is the name of the game, and I'll be talking to fellow experts and enthusiasts to rejoice in healing and revolutionize the way we approach therapy. I'm your host, Catie Harris. In today's episode of Beyond the Medical Algorithm, we're joined with Martin Pytela, a seasoned expert and personalized wellness and founder of Life Enthusiast. Martin transitioned from a successful career in IT and management consulting to pursue his passion for holistic health, driven by his personal health challenges and recovery journey. At Life Enthusiast, Martin specializes in metabolic typing and offers customized nutritional coaching to help individuals reverse chronic conditions and enhance their well-being. His approach emphasizes the importance of understanding individual biochemical needs to achieve optimal health, and today he's here to share his insights on how personalized wellness can transform our lives. Welcome, Martin.
Thank you.
So the first thing that just kind of comes to mind is you're in IT, you're in management consulting, and you transition to a very saturated field of nutritional counseling. How did that come about?
I got my health wrecked by mercury toxicity. I ended up with 12 mercury amalgam fillings in my mouth because I didn't know any better. I went to the doctor. Doctor says, "Do you have health insurance?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, they cover the amalgam fillings, not the composite fillings. Do you care?" And I said, "Well, free is good." So I went for the amalgam fillings. I had no idea that was going to completely unwind me because I have the MTHFR genetics. I do not metabolize. I do not methylate. I do not detoxify, or as well as others. So I'm from the category of you get toxic, you break down.
So tell me a little bit about the amalgams versus what was the other option, the composite?
Yeah, so ground up glass with plastics in it, right? Well, mercury amalgam is, well, they call it the silver amalgam, which it is, but it's 50% mercury. And so when you put it in a human body, well, we all are fighting not to eat mercury contaminated fish. And yet here we go and we volunteer and have a whole bunch of it installed in our mouths. And so every time you chew, you're creating friction. And it's just evaporating methyl mercury into the system.
And this is standard dental practice, correct?
Still to this day.
Still to this day. So still the 50% mercury. And so tell me a little bit about why it affects some people intensely like yourself and not others.
Methylation, attaching the CH3 ion to toxic things, happens in your liver, and some of us are under-methylators, and I'm one of those. It comes with some really cool things. The MTHFR gets you really talented in mathematics, music, linguistics, all kinds of stuff. Like you end up being in the higher end of the smart achiever types. But at the same time, you do not do long distance running. You do not last long time. And if you end up toxic, you end up in trouble. I did. For example, in my body, it broke the discs in my back. And so as the wrapping, the outside surface of the disc weakens, it starts spreading out, sort of like an underinflated tire. And so the gravity causes it to bulge out, pushes on nerves, and becomes less stable. I would spend 3-4 weeks, 2-3 times a year in essentially a wheelchair situation. I would sleep face down on a rocking chair, roll off of that, crawl on all fours to the toilet, and then crawl on all fours back until somehow miraculously this thing would come back together.
How often would something like that happen?
2-3 times a year. Like I would have an episode of worse. Like there are these thresholds and triggers that you will see in literature. The triggers is something that piles on you additional stress. And it could be emotional, physical, nutritional, whatever. We don't know what that is. It could be as simple as barometric pressure change. People will get migraines or I don't know what else, other symptoms. Well, my problem was my back would go.
And I'm sure you sought advice for this. What did they say was wrong?
Well, I went to the orthopedic surgeon first. I also had plantar fasciitis and carpal tunnel syndrome. So I got, we'll give you some corticosteroid shots. I was great for 6 weeks, and then it came back hurting every bit as much or worse. So that was the first one. Then I found chiropractors. It was great because the chiropractors are great mechanics. They put me back together. So when I was out, they would push it back together. And depending, sometimes I would last a week, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 2 days. You never know. You're unstable. It lets go. So that was chiropractic. I was also getting allergies and weight gain and God knows what else, other problems. So I went to the naturopathic physicians, and all of these people, well-trained, well-meaning health practitioners, they were simply chasing the symptoms. Not one of them said, well, what is causing this? Not one of them said, why are we not getting better? So when I finally put my systems analyst hat on and said, well, you have to analyze this, I came back with, well, nobody's asking the primary question, the root cause.
How long did it take you to get to that point where you took your healthcare into your own hands?
Probably 10 years.
So for 10 years, you're having these horrible episodes.
Yeah, just downhill.
Just downhill. Okay. And were you able to work through this or?
Well, yeah, intellectually, no problem. My impairments were physical. So I had a successful career. I earned well. I did just fine, except I suffered. And of course, Mercury is kind of dark. I was going to bed with suicidal thoughts very frequently. And like, it's really destabilizing.
And that's the Mercury.
Pretty much.
Okay. Interesting. And how did you come to the conclusion that it was Mercury?
Well, about 2 years in, out of curiosity, I had me a hair analysis done. And I remember I received it and was reading it and I was thinking, high mercury. I'm not eating tuna fish. Why am I seeing high mercury? I just wasn't connecting it. It didn't connect that the silver amalgam in my mouth was mercury amalgam. Like, it's the lack of being told. Like, I did not read the box warnings because nobody gave me those.
They didn't give you the box. Okay. And so when you put two and two together, what did you do next?
Well, I went looking for how does one detoxify mercury? And I found zeolite, clinoptilolite specifically, which is a mineral that is electronegative both on the outside and also in little caves within it on the inside. So it attracts electropositive elements, which would be especially the heavy metals. It actually indiscriminately takes out lead, mercury, cadmium, uranium, all that ugly stuff, arsenic. It also takes out the forever chemicals like volatile organic compounds, Teflon, all of that. So all of that was coming out. The first week after I started taking it were so entertaining. My urine was coming out. Of course, I'm watching it as it goes. Colors, blues, greens, reds, yellows, all kinds of stuff coming. And the smells. One day I'm smelling the dry cleaning fluid. The next day I'm smelling gasoline. It's just amazing how it starts binding and allowing the body to just start dumping all of this stuff.
Wow. And that's the zeolite.
Yeah.
Okay.
And later I found also that humic and fulvic acid amplify and improve. So those were my two things. And the third thing I found a chiropractor who designed amino acid, free-form amino acid product that compensates for the broken digestive system. I had a leaky gut problem. And with the leaky gut, you don't decompose proteins well enough. And so this amino acid was compensating for my lacking of essential aminos. And that helped me repair it. So I had x-rays taken of my back at my worst. And then 4 years later, in fact, the degradation and the degeneration was reversed.
Oh, wow.
So I'll know if well-functioning 70-something.
So did you ever get the silver amalgams out of your mouth or are they still in there?
Much later, I gave myself a Freedom 55 gift. So when I was 55, I found a biological dentist and had it all taken out. That person, he treated it as a hazardous waste site. full mask, rubber dam, suction like from an airplane, and oxygen, and you name it. Homeopathics before and after, zeolite, chlorella, cilantro, you name it. Like this was a full-on operation.
That's a dangerous job, taking mercury out. Yeah.
Well, you're drilling it, so you're evaporating it. So you do not want to inhale the stuff, and you don't want little bits of it falling down your throat either.
Right. That could be worse than having them in the first place. What do they replace them with?
The composite.
Oh, the composite. Okay.
Yeah.
Was it hard to find a biological dentist?
They're not common, and they're expensive. They're not covered by insurance. It was funny. The fillings were $100 each going in and $1,000 each going out. Everything that ever was worth doing to me was not covered by insurance. It was all out of pocket.
Yeah, I tell that at my clinic. I have the people that come in, they're like, is this covered by insurance? I'm like, look, if it's going to help you, it's not covered by insurance. And that's just, I don't know what else to tell you.
There's this interesting Rockefeller Carnegie situation. They own the foundations, they own the schools, they own the boards, they own the whatever. They control what is taught, they control what is known, controls what is shared. And so, therefore, by that, they also control the insurance company.
Yes. And I've learned a lot of really disturbing things about the insurance companies, too, that I am absolutely convinced that it's not in their interest to help people get well at all. So I can leave it at that. But yeah, it's really scary.
I think it's a sort of like an unholy trinity in the sense that the producers of the foods make us unwell. And then the unwellness is treated by the pharmaceuticals, which are only putting us on a steady drip of just not fixing it, just maintaining it. And the insurance company pretends to be interested in healing us when in fact they're really just in team to maintaining their business model.
Absolutely. And I would say, too, as a nurse practitioner, our entire curriculum, and I know it's very similar for the doctors to the point what you just said, is all pharmacology. That's all we've ever learned. And as I got into more nutrition and peptides and stuff, it was this reverse thinking, because in school we're taught this is the disease, this is the drug that you give for that disease. And you're always pairing a disease with a drug. Whereas with peptides and functional medicine, it's more kind of like to the questions you started asking about, why is this happening in the first place? What can we do?
I tell people the sort of the quip thing, or a headache is not caused by the deficiency of Excedrin. Breast cancer was not caused by deficiency in tamoxifen.
It's true. And I don't think when you go into these doctors and nurse practitioners as well, if you don't fit nice and neatly into a disease state, you get labeled, you're crazy, you're drug seeking, you're lonely, and you're looking for attention or something.
Yeah, I have 120,000 people in a Facebook group called Fibromyalgia Support, and they all are seeking affirmation that it's not in their head, that they're not crazy, that they are exactly the words that you're using. Because, of course, they're not diagnosed. It's not a put your finger on a diagnosis. It's not this, it's not this, it's not this. Therefore, it must be fibromyalgia.
Right. Exactly. And there's a root cause to it. And that's what we need to get to. So you started a company called Life Enthusiast. Why don't you tell us, how did you make that transition? So I know you went through this life journey, but that doesn't necessarily mean you started business around it.
Well, it's always funny how things happen. The year 2000 was coming in. I was in information technology, and I was getting a lot of messages about Y2K is going to be a doozy. I was thinking, well, okay, I cannot know whether it is wrong or right. Is this a Chicken Little story or not? I don't know. So I thought, well, let's take the family. I had a wife and 2 teenage daughters, just middle school. And so we said, okay, let's move to a small town where we are living with people who care for one another. And we did. So the town was like 3,500 people and 1 high school. If you wanted to visit a Walmart, you had to drive 180 miles.
Oh my God. It's uncivilized.
No, it's awesome. It was great. But with it came complete lack of job opportunities. I had built several websites for other people as clients, and I thought, I'll be my own client. Build me a website. What do I know anything about? Okay, let's try this. I shared what I knew, and I put it up there, and I found some non-toxic soaps and zeolite and some superfoods that help with the nutritional side of things, and we launched. Back then, 2001, too, it was easy to go online and start a business.
I was going to say that was pretty early. That was really early. So anything that you put up was probably, that's awesome.
Again, I didn't know what I should have known, which is known as the long tail. When you declare yourself something like this, I am the lawyer who deals with 35-year-old divorced women of journalist husbands who've cheated on them. This is the long tail. Every woman that will fit that pattern will be my client, because they'll go online, they'll type in their long tail, and I'll be the perfect fit. I did it completely wrong because I said I can fix every chronic inflammatory degenerative disease. I don't care what you call it. I know that I can help with all of them.
Which is marketing suicide.
Exactly. So I built that. So it's been a struggle for a while, but I'm okay. I'm making a living. We have about 20 people working here in this business, and we're supporting life and all of that.
So what was the focus of the business? What did you decide the main focus was going to be? How do you help all these people?
Well, it was first product focused. I was just selling healthy products with a bit of advice. Here's why and here's how you need to use this. Again, I didn't understand the long tail. I didn't know that I should be chasing the fibromyalgia or the migraine headache caused by atmospheric air pressure.
Is that a thing?
That's a thing. Yeah, a barometric pressure change will bring on migraines.
So you also do metabolic typing. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, about 10 years in, I found this thing. Bill Walcott published a book in 87, which connected the two things. There are two metabolic dominances. One, called autonomic, is alkalized by carbohydrates and acidified by fats and proteins. And the oxidizers are the other way around, meaning they're more alkaline by fats and proteins and more acidic by carbs. That throws the entire nutritional science into complete turmoil. If you don't know this, you have no idea how you should feed your customer. And that's why you see all these diets. Should I be on keto? Should I be on Ornish? Should I be on Robert Atkins? Whatever. Without understanding what the underlying primary drivers are, you're just flailing at it. So there's this 120 multiple choice questions quiz that when you answer that, I have answers to two things. What's your endocrine dominance, which is how you gain or lose weight? And the other one is what's your metabolic dominance, which is how you alkalize or acidify. This is worth explaining. Alkalinity starts with procrastination, deeper in despondence, further deeper in depression. Like, pull the sheet over your head. I'm not getting up today. I don't want to face the world. Acidity, so you get up late and you go to sleep late with that, with over-alkalized. Over-acidified, you start with impatience, getting up early, very driven, but abrasive, no social graces, and then further in either rage when it's externally driven or anxiety when it's inwardly focused. And you can be in anxiety over your past, as in reliving all the mistakes you've ever made, or in the future, which is picturing all the horrible things that may happen.
So this comes from being in one of these two states.
So you're either overly alkaline or overly acidic, and you could be swinging from one to the other, depending. So if you're an autonomic, you are alkalizing by carbohydrates. So drinking alcohol is an ingestion of carbs. So you can watch at a party, the autonomics, they will start getting more and more emotional, start sharing, telling too much. saying things that they wish they didn't say, and then they may be crying for a while, and then they fall asleep. The oxidizers, they're different. They become louder, more confrontational, in your face, and then they pick a fight, either verbal or even physical.
Interesting.
So it depends where you start. So if you start already acidic in the day, you're living in anxiety. If you eat the foods that make you even more acidic, you are now in serious clinical anxiety. Whereas if you take the right foods that will make you more alkaline, you return into flexible, normal, functional.
So this does completely negate every diet that's out there, because you really need to eat the foods that are in balance, or that will help you to be in balance based on which one of these states you're in.
Right. And because you're one or the other, you need to figure out which makes you better and which makes you worse.
And yeah, I mean, that kind of goes because they always say everything should be alkaline, your body should be alkaline, but that might be detrimental for some people.
Well, up to a point. The balanced state is 7.35 on the pH scale, which is slightly alkaline of neutral. So maybe people are saying you should be a bit alkaline. But if you over-alkalize, you put yourself right out into the depression territory.
How did you come up with this stuff?
Well, I didn't, but many smart people ahead of me did. So, well, Bill Wolcott is the one who put it together. And there's a company called Health Excel and Metabolic Typing, and that's his thing. And I took courses and I learned and I practiced and I got it figured out. I mean, a few thousand people later, I'm pretty sure-footed about what I'm going to tell you based on what you're going to be telling me.
Okay. So somebody comes to your website and they take this 120 question quiz, and then they can find out what type they are. And then what happens?
Well, so one, I now know your metabolic type, so I can tell you with certainty what combinations of foods are going to help you with your mental state. We focus on the emotional balance, satiety, crispness of your mind, as in brain fog versus cognitive power. So we can solve all that. And then the endocrine dominance, that deals mainly with how you put on weight or how you become skinny. So some of us are born with a conflict, because if more fats make you, let's just say, happier, more relaxed, but at the same time make you gain weight, you will end up being happy fat or bitchy skinny. Or you have to figure out the edge. There are so many people, about half, who are with the happy combination, where you can be trim and balanced at the same time, but others have to fight for it.
Okay. And so once somebody knows their metabolic type and their endocrine dominant state, what does your company do with this information for them? They create like a plan or something?
Yeah, that information packet is really rich. You get how to construct your meals, and then we teach people how to shop, because, of course, there's no way that you can get well on the 5 white death foods, which is refined flour, refined sugar, white dairy, the refined oils, and salt. All the refined stuff that's going to make everybody sick. So anyway, we teach people about nutrition, how to put it together, environmental. There are 4 pillars of illness in my head, which is toxicity, malnutrition, stagnation, and trauma. Trauma is invisible, emotional damage picked up from childhood or even intergenerational. It's just stuff that we have to deal with. And there are methods, not a talking psychotherapy, that doesn't do much. That just relives the same thing over and over. EFT is one of them, emotional freedom technique, that helps people release stored trauma. Stagnation is a problem of sedentary lifestyle, not moving enough. We are a dynamic creature. We are built for movement. We are supposed to walk 6 miles a day, something like that. So movement. The lymphatic system needs to be moving, otherwise we stagnate. Malnutrition, well, the modern food industry is producing calorie-rich, nutrient-poor foods. We need to figure out how to balance that. We need to inject enough nutrients and the ones that are missing. And based on the metabolic type, you have preferences. Some people need more of vitamin B5, some more of B6, some aminos, some minerals. There are differences. And the last one, the toxicity. Well, I was a great example of that. We talked about it early on. You need to take out of your body that which is blocking the homeostatic system from doing its job. And you need to stop the inflow of it.
And now, you had mentioned humic and fulvic acid earlier. For somebody that has, let's say, malnutrition, is that like a starting place? And maybe you can explain a little bit for people that I don't think it's commonly known what humic and fulvic acid is.
Well, humic got its name from humus, which makes your difference between beach sand and fertile soil. It's that black juice or black goo that is that. So 80 million years old soil that has been processed by microbes is a compost, but it's concentrated and it can be mined, and it is mined all around the planet. And there are cleaner sources and not so clean sources. So you want to buy stuff that somebody certified for human consumption. Otherwise, you can go into a garden store and buy a bag of humic acid for gardening for $1 a pound.
And get very sick, yes.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. I just can't trust it. So anyway, so we have this. So when you introduce the humus into your digestive system, it belongs there. Remember this, that this opening here at the mouth is the beginning of the pipe that goes through you all the way out to the anus. And it actually is the outside within you. So the food and the whole outside, including the dirt that the food grew with or on, goes in your mouth. Some of it's supposed to stay there. And there are microbes living with it. And I'll say it this way. If I were a plant, the villi of my small intestine would be the roots. And the roots are extracting the nutrients from the dirt that's inside the pipe. And it's the microbes, even with plants, the microbes that live at the roots are those that take apart the rocks, the minerals, and their output is what the plant takes up. Here's an interesting sidebar. Roundup or glyphosate works really well because it kills the microbes at the root of the plant. That's how it kills the plant. So when you eat food that has even trace amounts of this antibiotic in it and on it, you're going to be killing your inner terrain. And that's what we're seeing a great deal of trouble with lately. Okay, so that's the humic that you put inside your mouth that is going to create a terrain in which the microbiome is going to do better than it would do otherwise. That's why you have it. And the small fraction, the small molecule fraction known as fulvic acid, those are the tiniest of the molecules from that mix, they're small enough to get inside cells. So they are cytotoxicity removers, as in cleaning the inside of your cells. And that's needed because if your cell gets polluted, there are very few ways to clean it. So that's the story on that. So when you want to grow some radishes, you need to start with healthy soil. That's the beginning of it. Then you need the radish seed. You need to put that in, and then you need to water it, and then you need to put sunshine on it and all of that. But the beginning is the soil.
And it's the same with humans. You need water, sunlight,
nutrients,
and humic and fulvic acid. Yeah, basically. Okay, so when you're working with people or when people are working with your business, how do they start out on a personalized wellness plan? Like, what is the first thing? Because I feel like some of these people are so complex. It's like, where do you even start?
Well, a lot of people just come to the website and buy whatever they think they should buy. Even though I say loudly on the front page, we're different. And we have this health coach phone us, and we give away the first for 15 minutes of the call. And most people don't need much more than that to get an orientation about where they are, what they need, and why they need it. I mean, it's not that complicated. I just named them: toxicity, malnutrition, stagnation, and trauma. You will have various combinations. There are thousands of secondary causes of illness, but the primary are really simple. It's the metabolic function, the mitochondria, the general functioning of your cell. So you're asking, how do they interact? So those who choose to, they give a call, they are told how we work. Some will just say, I can figure it out by myself. I give it away. There are a bunch of podcasts on the website where I explain what we just explained here in some more detail, that they can figure it out on their own. And if they feel like getting a speedy leg up, then they do the quiz and they will know the answer within a day. And it comes with a user's manual. I will tell you how to drive the vehicle that you're inside. This body that you're in, we give you the user's manual for it.
And you don't need to do any genetic testing.
I don't. It can enhance it. I can tell you that if you're from coastal Africa, let's just say that you have a whole bunch of the slave genetics in you, well, just go look at what people are eating in Senegal. It's going to be tropical fish, shorebirds, cassava, and coconut, because there's plenty of coconut palms all over. That's the diet. It's not fried chicken and corn. Actually, Weston O. Price did a phenomenal job of going around the world back in the 30s, and Weston O. Price Foundation still goes with ancestral diet or aboriginal diet, which is the best thing. Say if a child is born in North Africa in a Bedouin tribe, he'll be fed things like dates, figs, pomegranates, camel milk. That's carbohydrate on carbohydrate. He'll be fine because he's genetically born to, he's a 50th generation of that. Now, somewhere in Norway, this kid is fed dried cod, salmon. The growing season is only 90 days long. So they'll be eating maybe sauerkraut or fermented who knows what. And that's the diet. So you cannot take the kid from North Africa and send him to Norway and live on the Norwegian food. That's going to be a health disaster. Now we have North America, the melting pot, the Norwegian grandmother with the Bedouin grandfather.
That was my next question.
Throwing some Cherokee into the mix. So now you need to ask your body, what do you like? Some of us have the coastal heritage that requires a lot of iodine. Others are more inlanders. People from India make really easy vegetarians because they lived for generations in a terrain where food is plentiful year-round. You don't have to be hunting for a reindeer or for salmon. You just go to the garden and pick something from the banyan tree or whatever's growing there.
Yeah, I mean, that really, I feel like what you're saying helps to simplify some of the conflicting messages that we get. You have to do this diet, you have to do that diet, and it works for some people, doesn't work for others. And this offers like an explanation of why.
Yeah, that's right. And so, for example, myself, Eastern European, 45% Ashkenazi Jewish, and then there is some Swedish, Turkish, Western European, whatever. Every time an army came through the country, somebody got raped or maybe seduced. I don't know. But for example, my Jewish mother was a golden colored blonde. The only way you get that is from Sweden. And sure enough, in the 16-something hundreds, the 30-year war, there was a Swedish garrison in North Moravia where my mother's ancestry came from. On the other hand, my father tanned like a Cherokee. He had the straightest black hair, and he would tan into red, right? Copper, just dark. And sure enough, there was a Turkish garrison in Eastern Moravia in the 1700s. Turks made it as far as that. That's where they stopped. And so here I am with those genetics. And so my nephew is dark black hair, whatever, while I'm a blondie with a Jewish thing, but Swedish looking.
It gets hard to pinpoint people.
Well, it's a mess. And therefore, I'm just giving it as an example just to illustrate just how complicated this thing is. I mean, contemplate the Native American who was following the buffalo and ate red meat almost exclusively, plus some pemmican, which was a berry and bear fat for the winter. And then the white man shows up with whiskey and bannock, which is pure carb. It just is a metabolic disaster.
Right. Yeah, I guess those are the things that I never fully understood, was because, like you say, in these different areas, people eat this very, very distinctly different foods and still somehow manage without like 30% carb, 30% fat, 30% protein.
It works for some. And this is the funny thing. Depends on which nutritionist you meet. If the nutritionist you read or hear from is a match for your genetics, you have a success story.
Yeah. Otherwise, you did something wrong. You didn't follow my advice.
I remember talking, this client comes up. She's trying to save herself from cancer. And she's gone through the Hippocrates Institute, which is the vegetarians. They'll feed you wheatgrass until you're green. She got worse. 3 weeks there, she was worse and worse and worse. I said, okay, go buy yourself an entire salmon and get a salad and eat that. Salad and fish all day long. And in 2 weeks later, she was thriving because the genetics, if you match it, great. If you mismatch it, terrible. And this is this experiment that we're running right now with this, everybody's eating like a northern Italian farmer. Well, first of all, the northern Italian farmer worked in the field. So they put out maybe 6,000 calories a day. So pizza is an awesome way of pounding in a lot of calories because you sweated all day long and you worked. So playing video games and eating pizza, not a great combo.
When you say it like that, it's so obvious, right? All right. Well, Martin, looking back over your extensive career and personal journey, what would you say has been the most transformative lesson you've learned with health and wellness?
Well, the injury that I suffered, now I see it as the providence, the God's hand in it that forced me to learn, forced me to change. And I don't know why so many people are forced into this narrow chute. Every industry that I have ever looked at is corrupted with money. I looked into finance, into health, into agriculture, all manner of stuff. And when you have money in politics, it corrupts how the field is designed. It tilts the field into the advantage of those who are paying for the game. So my greatest piece of wisdom that I can say is, people, let's figure out some way how we can actually do right by ourselves. Yeah. I guess that would be the grandfather talking to his grandson, saying, boy, of all important things, try to get money out of politics.
I know I'm going to take this 120 question quiz, but where can people go to get this quiz and take advantage of this?
The business that I'm managing is called Life Enthusiast, life-enthusiast.com. Phone numbers on the website. You can call us. It's not a huge team, and all of us are trained and understand what's going on, and we will help. And with the piece of paper in your hand, you will not have to guess why. I mean, you will have examples of good outcomes and bad outcomes in your own memory, in your memory bank. All you have to do is just remember them, recall them, and say, oh, that's why. It's the instructional manual that they should have given you back in the high school and didn't.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us today.
A real pleasure. It's good to meet you, Catie.
Beyond the Medical Algorithm is brought to you by the Philly Wellness Center. To find out more about the Philly Wellness Center and how we're challenging conventional medical wisdom and shedding light on more natural means of healing and therapy, visit phillywellnesscenter.com. And then make sure to search for Holistic Health in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. On behalf of the team here at the Philly Wellness Center, keep celebrating the innate power in our incredible bodies, and thanks for listening.